US President Donald Trump is not backing down. He is sending the largest US aircraft carrier as part of a carrier strike group, the Gerald Ford, to the shores of Venezuela to wage war against drug cartels that are based on Venezuelan territory. According to information from American media, particularly The Guardian, the Pentagon has officially announced this openly and publicly. The Pentagon is deploying its main aircraft carrier against the backdrop of Trump increasing the militarization of the Caribbean Sea. The use of the Gerald Ford aircraft carrier along with fighter jets is happening at a time when the president is planning to strike alleged cartels on land. In other words, we're not just talking about intercepting some vessels that are transporting drugs to the US. You know, we've seen those videos like a small boat filmed from a satellite. They showed that footage and there are 4 people on board transporting something. They're sailing along and then the American military launches a missile strike and that's it. The boat is gone. So here we're no longer talking about carrying out these kinds of, about intercepting such vessels or say stopping smuggling at sea. Now we're talking about something much more serious. We're talking about the fact that at present the United States is already prepared to carry out strikes against land targets connected to drug cartels, which are located on the territory of the independent sovereign state of Venezuela and of course are linked to the Maduro regime. Now let me briefly tell you what this new aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford, is and about the carrier group that accompanies it. This aircraft carrier is a completely new generation nuclear-powered ship. It is equipped with 2 nuclear reactors, which virtually eliminates the need for refueling. In other words, it can move autonomously across the seas and oceans. It has 4 shafts and 4 propellers, reaching speeds of over 30 knots, which is more than 56 kilometers per hour. On board, this aircraft carrier typically carries more than 75 airplanes and helicopters in its standard configuration. This aircraft carrier relies not only on aircraft, but also on escort warships, air defense systems, radars, and information systems. So it's not just a floating airfield that's surrounded and protected by escort and support ships, right? It's a floating strike combat complex, a mobile command and control center. In other words, it's an army on the water. The aircraft carrier is equipped with dozens of F-18 Super Hornet fighters, which increase the offensive firepower and the US's ability to strike Venezuela's air defense systems. This would open the way for American special forces and drones to destroy ground targets, according to current and former officials. Now, why did the United States take this step, sending a carrier group to the shores of Venezuela? American sources say that the operation is primarily aimed at breaking the supply chains of drugs coming from Venezuela to the US, which are causing a fentanyl crisis, drug addiction, and as a result, violence in America. The deployment of American destroyers and personnel is taking place against the backdrop of Trump's efforts to use the US armed forces to crack down on the activities of cartels, which he accuses of supplying fentanyl and other illegal drugs to American communities and fueling violence in some US cities. Also, this is all aimed at putting pressure on the Maduro regime, which is accused of having its elites fueled by, supported by, and organizing all this drug business and drug trafficking. So in other words, this is not just an anti-trafficking operation, but also a geopolitical strategy pursued by the United States.